beautiful Florida. And today our question comes to us from Reverend Shira. And Reverend Shira has this question which she asked in last night's Chancellor's Chat. And the question is, can one simply choose not to reincarnate? And it was agreed in the chat that this is really two questions in one. Can a living person choose not to reincarnate? Or can the soul itself choose not to reincarnate? And my answer to both of these questions is the same. It's both yes and no. I believe that we reincarnate because we're drawn back into this world by attachments. And as long as those attachments exist, we will be drawn back into this world. You will have to come back to learn those lessons that come with those attachments, and until you've learned them and released the attachments, the cycle of reincarnation will continue. And this is kind of like an itch that one must scratch. It's not that anyone's going to make you reincarnate. It's not that it's exactly even a debate of whether you'll reincarnate. It's just something you eventually will do because you're drawn back to it. Having said that, although I do not think that we can simply end this process at will, I do think that we can choose not to reincarnate for a time. And the entire Buddhist religion is about moving out of the cycle of reincarnation. And I do think that if you follow a program such as that, you can eventually do this, but in Buddhism it's a very long process, and I think that it's the same process we go through naturally. But in terms of when our next incarnation will occur, I certainly don't think it's immediate for most people, and I think it can be quite a long time if the attachments are not so strong that they don't immediately draw you back. However, in order to do this, it's not just a matter of conscious choice. You would have to be in a position where that pull is not that strong. I think that when attachments are very strong for the soul, the incarnation happens a lot faster. And I think where you have worked on these, where you've done a lot of shadow work, that rest between lives can be longer. However, I don't know that it can't be as long as we desire it to be, bearing in mind that eventually our desire will be affected by those attachments. So I think the answer is both yes and no. I think that we can choose not to reincarnate any too quickly, but I don't think that we can escape the cycle of reincarnation as long as we still have attachments drawing us back. I also don't think that's a bad thing, because the entire point of the cycle of reincarnation is to perfect our souls, to learn our lessons, to advance. And I think of it rather like school, and I think my mother made this comparison in The Five Mystic Secrets, that children often don't like to go to school. They sometimes will look upon it as a terrible chore, but it's really kind of an important one. And I think that incarnation can be the same way. I also would point out that although life in this physical world is not always pleasant, I think we make it more unpleasant by fighting against our lessons, and can make life much more pleasant by going with those lessons our soul has chosen, by devoting ourselves to those lessons and to our shadow work. And I think that you'll find that the problems that people often experience will tend to become lighter because of doing this work. And I think that the more that you do, the fewer attachments you have, the more lessons you have learned, the more you're going to enjoy your life. And that life is not, as Victorian Christians like to say, a vale of tears, but can be a delightful journey if you are taking the journey with open eyes. So that would be my answer. I hope you find it helpful, and until next time, may you blessed be.